It kind of made me read it and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the whole way through. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tandem Fandom YouTube channel. My name is Lex and I'm here as your crime and thriller correspondent, and today I'm going to be bringing you a comprehensive guide to John Marr's thrillers. John Marrs has been a massive author for us this year. We worked on a 3-book campaign and I've had an absolute blast, and this is the year I actually got to discover John Marrs. So let me take you along the journey where I have discovered both his speculative thrillers and his psychological thrillers and fallen in love with both. If you don't know who I'm talking about, this is John Marrs and this is his social media feed on Instagram, should you want to go ahead and give him a follow. He is one of the authors that I'm consistently recommending to other authors when I'm talking about what a good Instagram presence looks like for an author. So definitely give him a follow and have a look at his feed. He is forever providing tidbits and sneak peeks behind the scenes of all of his books. So to start with, I'm going to start with, well, I feel like Alexis is going to help me out, and she's going to help me out by dividing the psychological thrillers from the speculative thrillers with a little sticker somewhere on the screen. So first up, I would like to talk about The Stranger in Her House. This book came out this year, so it might seem a little bit of a strange place to start, but actually this was the first book that Tandem Collective got to work on. A Stranger in Her House follows a character with dementia and the characters around her, including her daughter Connie and a new helper sent by a local charity who gets a touch too close and causes some problems for Connie and her family. It's such an interesting book and it's so dark, but it starts with a premise that makes you panic because it makes you go, oh God, this could happen. Like with themes of dementia, and I'm also very aware of spoiling these books. So I don't want to talk too much about them, but I am going to give you a one-liner per book, just so you can get a feel as to where you might like to start. So A Stranger in Her House does deal with a character that has dementia. So if you have any content warnings or trigger warnings around that kind of concept, drop us a message and we can have a chat. Alternatively, for Stranger in Her House, What Lies Between Us, and Keep It in the Family, we do have a read-along page set up on our website, which you can find linked down below, and the content warnings should be linked there. A Stranger in Her House is perfect for anyone who likes a dramatic, twisty, turny, confidence trickery book that has you believing in every character and then suddenly not believing in every character. The perfect book if you love the rug being pulled out from underneath you and a big, twisty reveal after reveal after reveal ending. The second book in the John Marrs marathon that Tandem Collective celebrated this year was a book called Keep It in the Family. So both of these books are on the psychological side. Keep It in the Family, definitely so. This is a book that starts with a house of horrors that may or may not house many dead children. It's a couple's first home that they've bought with a little bit of financial support from his parents-in-law. And one day, our pregnant main character goes up into the attic to try and find something. She is also pregnant at the time. She gets a big fright in the attic and I think falls down the stairs. And everything just gets worse from there. And this is one of those books that is very, very dark. And as I've said, it does involve some dead children. So please take that as a content warning. But as I've said, we've got you covered on the Tandem website should you want a little bit more detail on that one. This is the book that has the ever famous chapter 39, which is from one of our characters called Finn, and the entirety of the chapter simply reads, Tandem Collective actually got to make a really fun TikTok with this sound, and if you'd like to see that, I think I've got an image of it here, and it will be linked down in the description below. Keep It in the Family is very dark. It is for somebody who likes their psychological thrillers on the kind of grotesque side. But what I will say, it was one of my favorites. It was fun, it was popcorny, it was thrillery, and it kind of has you looking at your family members in completely different ways after this book. The third book that we did in our John Marrs marathon, still keeping to the psychological thrillers in this instance, is called What Lies Between Us. And I think this actually might be the darkest book out of the three. But what I will say is that it's a grower. When I finished this book, I was on such a John Marrs hype. I just read Stranger in a House. I just read Keep It in the Family. And then I read this one. And I wasn't immediately as hooked by it as I was with the other two. However, it grew like a dark mold in a damp environment. It grew. And now I actually think this might be the champion for me of the marathon. What Lies Between Us centers on a woman keeping her mother captive upstairs in her home, and then the dual timelines of the book reveal all of the trauma that has gone before. If Keep It in the Family is horrifying, then What Lies Between Us is harrowing. It is emotionally devastating on many different levels, and again, lots of content warnings. It really delves into that familial mother-daughter relationship and all of the things that can go so horrifically wrong there, despite anybody's best intentions. But I think this might be the one that I recommend the most from the psychological thrillers by John Marrs that I have read so far. We're going to take a quick hop over onto the other side of our charts and drawing boards, and we're going to chat a little bit about some of his speculative thrillers. So John Marrs' speculative thrillers are published by a different publisher, just to give it that little bit of distinction as to, if you like psychological, these are here, and if you like speculative, these are here. I do understand that speculative thrillers are a little bit Marmite. I think, you know, they're not quite science fiction. They're definitely not science fiction because I don't really vibe there. But these kind of speculative, I'd maybe even say potentially more of a better description would be high concept thrillers. So let me introduce you to the ones that I've read. First up, I listened to these both on audio. I think they're both available via Libby, so definitely worth checking that out. And the first one is called The One. This book features a dating service which matches you on your DNA profile to your one true, like science-based chromosomal match to your one true love. And the book kind of unravels and brings together loads of different stories, but some might include a police officer whose one true love is a serial killer, or a young girl whose one true love is actually in Australia, or a man in a couple who's recently done his DNA match because he was feeling a little bit insecure, only to potentially realize that the person that he's with is not his one true love. What do you do then? Do you go with the science? Do you stick with the partner that you found on your own? This book explores so many different stories and so many different characters, and they all interweave. And it kind of made me read it and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the whole way through. I listened to it on audio, and I think that was my preferred reading of it. I have recommended it to other people who have read it just straight out of the book, and they didn't love it as much as I did. So go with the audio and see what you think. The next speculative thriller that I would like to recommend, again, I listened to it on an audiobook, is called The Passengers. In a world of driverless cars, our main character sits on the jury to decide whose fault it is when a driverless car causes or is involved in an accident. We uncover all kinds of horrific bias built into the AI minds of these cars, and it's all brought to a horrifying apex when a terror attack takes place and the 8 cars that have been randomly selected around the country, driverless cars, are set on a collision course with a timer. It's brilliant. It's topical, it's political, it comments on AI and racial bias and all of these other kind of elements that we all think about in our day-to-day lives. And it's such a good book. It's such a good book. If I was to recommend you my favorites from the psychological and the speculative that I've read so far, I would say my favorite psychological is What Lies Between Us, and my favorite speculative thriller so far is The Passengers. So now onto books that I haven't read yet. Keep in mind that I only started reading John Marrs at the very beginning of the year. We're now, where are we? 7 months in, and I've read 5 John Marrs. I've got some to go, but it's also been quite a John Marrs heavy year. Not that I am complaining. So Some of his earlier work on the psychological thriller side is Her Last Move, where a cop with an amazing memory for faces hunts a serial killer before the next kill. Sounds great. I'm definitely into that. This one sounds really interesting. The Good Samaritan. She's the friendly voice at the end of the phone, but can you actually trust her? I love that. I already know that John Mars is great at making me trust characters and then pulling the rug out from underneath me. So I think that from my enjoyment of his previous books, I would definitely enjoy that one. You've got The Vacation. I actually started The Vacation. I've started this one on audio, but then I got a load of workbooks in that I had to read, so I had to put a pin in it. But I will go back to it. Not in a major rush because I wasn't immediately gripped, but I think I will go back to it. And this is where 8 strangers meet in an LA hostel. All of them are running from something, and all of them have got major secrets to keep. And I hadn't quite figured out what the secrets were yet in my previous listen, so I think I will go back and I will pick it up. The last psychological thriller by John Mars that I've not yet read is called When You Disappeared, and this one actually sounds so intriguing. This is a thriller about a man returning home to his life after simply having disappeared 25 years earlier. I've got questions. I don't know about you, but I have questions. So then we have 3 more books that sit on the speculative fiction side of our chart, which I hope Alexis has made, because otherwise I'm just waving my arms around like an imaginary teacher. We have The Marriage Act, and this is one of the more recent books, I believe. So this features 4 couples who are in a relationship that is being monitored, and if they break their vows, they pay the price. Because I loved The One and The Passengers so much, I can't help but feel like I am just going to eat up the rest of his speculative thrillers. So I'm kind of glad that there are still 3 more for me to dive into. We've got The Minders, which I think was quite an early title. 5 strangers guard our secrets, but only 4 can be trusted. Dun dun dun. I'm definitely into that. And then this last one is his most recent title, which I actually have a NetGalley of that I haven't read yet, despite this book already being out. Raise your hands if you request books on NetGalley and then never read them in time, and then you feel bad. So this one is, of course, The Family Experiment, where 11 contestants raise a virtual child to be in with the chance of winning an actual baby, or to be in with the chance of being able to have an actual baby. I'm not quite sure on the terms and conditions of the competition, but I'm sold and I'm intrigued and I'm invested. So I want to know, out of those John Mars titles that we've just been through, which ones are you most excited about? Don't forget, Stranger in Her House, Keep It in the Family, and What Lies Between Us are all available as read-alongs on our website. So if you want to get the books and then buddy read with any of your mates, you can, because we've got the discussion questions and creative challenges up for you on the website, which will also be linked down below. John Mars is, of course, hugely prolific as an author and is forever working on what's next and what's next and what's next. And if you would like a little sneak peek into that information, then you're going to have to go into the description box below, because I was lucky enough to interview John Mars and he gave us some little gems of what's to come on the psychological thriller side of his writing. But in the meantime, that is it from me, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know which books you're prioritizing and which books that I should prioritize next from John Mars. I would also love to know, if you love John Mars, what else will you love? What other authors should I be diving into now that I've recognized this love? But that's it from me. Thank you so much, Tandem Fandom. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and we have a newsletter where you can get all of the latest opportunities, read-alongs, and more. See you soon.